of the panel. Welcome to the panel. This is a monthly gathering of the minds to discuss worship, worship arts, music, and church. My name is Dr. Chad Brawley. I'm the lead consultant of the Brawley Group Consulting agency, and we are your partner in cultivating vibrant music and worship ministry. So we help churches help people worship. So if there's anything that we can do to help you in your ministry, we would love to do that. Please visit our website. The website is the Brawley Group consulting.com. Also, please be sure to follow us on all of the socials everywhere at the Brawley Group. All right, we're going to get right into it. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time with preliminaries because we have so much stuff to talk about. We have such an amazing panel, and I want to go ahead and get started with that. So I'm going to actually ask them to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit very briefly about what they're doing now currently, and also want them to share with us one of the funniest things that has happened, one of the funniest things that's happened to you all, or that you've witnessed while playing in church. You know, church is one of the funniest places in the world. And so what are some funny things that you've experienced while playing or, you know, while serving in church? All right, so let's get started. Our first panelist, Miss Stephanie Blue. Tell us something, Stephanie. Say hello to the people.
My name is Stephanie Blue.
Oh, you're muted. There we go.
Okay. I recently retired from teaching music in HISD and spent the past year kind of really in musical theater and those kinds of things. But I've been playing in church officially since around the age of 12.
Oh, wow. All right. All right. Well, that sounds good. Y'all, I've known Stephanie for quite a long time, and Stephanie I'm gonna just say Stephanie has been a pillar in the Houston music community and has been a mentor to so many. So it's good thing it's good to have her on this panel tonight because she's gonna be able to share a lot of great wisdom with us. All right. So next up we have Natalie Reagans. Natalie.
Hello, my name is Natalie Reagans. I'm presently the musical director at Turner Chapel AME. I've been playing, I guess, professionally. Is professionally considered professionally when it involves pay?
That's what they
say. Okay, cool. Since the age of 13, okay, I think I'm waiting on the funny moments.
Oh, Stephanie, did Stephanie have a funny moment?
She didn't mention it yet.
I'm sorry, Stephanie. I skipped right over your funny moment.
I'll come back to the funny moment.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Nat.
Oh boy. It's a challenge. I don't want to be inappropriate with my funny, so let me find something pretty PC funny. I thought it was funny. I don't know if I'm sure everybody's experienced this. Like, I saw a couple avoid having to rent the church for a wedding. The groom proposed right after church. And like, so we're still there right before the benediction, like right there. And then the pastor was like, "You're ready now. We can marry you right now." And wow. And they got married right on site. I think that's one of the safer funnies.
I thought you were going to say that the other person said no.
Said no. Hey, look, safe yet very illegal.
But maybe not funny, but yeah.
Because they have to have a license a few days before the ceremony. So it's funny as that is. It's totally illegal.
It's totally illegal. Okay.
Do the safe funny.
Right. All right. Ricky, let's move forward to you, bro.
Hey, y'all. My name is Ricky Draper from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Minister of music, worship pastor, keyboardist, organist, what have you. Academic. And funny moment. There are a lot of inappropriate, just like Natalie said, a lot of inappropriate funny moments. But one that's apropos for right now would be I was in a worship service, hands lifted, you know, everything is just amazing. Mm-hmm. And the MD drew a complete blank on the next song. So everybody, you know, we got somebody's holding the pad and we're all ready for the next song. And, everybody's having that encounter with the Lord. And this is the reason it's funny, because I mean, that can happen from time to time. 5 seconds, okay, we fix it. Y'all, he got so stuck he had to apologize. He said, "Y'all, I'm sorry. I
to the church?
Lord." He apologized on the microphone to the church.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
That is funny.
He didn't last much longer. Just to
Oh,
kind of punctuate the story, he didn't
Lord.
last much longer.
Oh, Lord.
Lord have
Oh,
mercy.
okay. Have mercy, Jesus. All right. Well, I guess that didn't end up being too funny for him, but I bet in the moment, I'm sure in the moment that was very funny. Ricky, what are you doing these days?
Yeah. So my last ministry post was worship pastor at First Baptist New Orleans. I was there for 5 years. Resigned from there. Me and Natalie were just talking about it back in August. And just in that prayerful, state about what's next, where God is leading me. There have been some great opportunities, and just waiting on the right thing, not just the right thing or a good thing, but the truly ordained thing for me. And it's been amazing because honestly, since that time, I've had one Sunday off, other than taking a vacation and kind of moving around. But just be praying for me that I can hear from God to move in the right direction, and not just something that looks good or feels good, but something that is truly God ordained.
Good.
But to answer your question, in this 9-month period now, 10-month period, I've been growing my business, growing my LLC, and really kind of moving in that vein to work on, I guess, I hate to say it this way, but kind of work on my own thing for me and my wife and my family.
Good.
And to be able to add, onto that as I move forward in ministry service.
Good stuff.
Trying to be like you, man.
No, don't you. Do you, Deep? Do you? God bless you. Dr. John Paul McGee, what you got going on, brother? Welcome.
Thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to spend time with you, Chad, and to be with my colleagues here. I am in a season where I think that all of the various sides of me are starting to coalesce in a very powerful way, and I'm excited about that because I've lived many years kind of in this bifurcated, separated thing where it's like you got this and this and this, and they don't really come together. But right now, I am full-fledged in academia as the assistant chair of the piano department at Berklee College of Music in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm also an artist scholar in residence at Yale Divinity School on the faculty of Virginia Union University, and newly brought into the faculty in a consultant role for Simmons College in Louisville, Kentucky, all exploring the intersection of music and theology and performance practice in various genres. And I'm really excited about that. I began my in professional music ministry at 12, like many of my other colleagues have spoken of. I was the minister of music at Waters AME Church, where I jokingly but truthfully say that the average age in that choir was 77 years old. Well, and so I've been at it since then, really holding various posts as minister of music, pastor of worship. I actually was a senior pastor of a church for 5 years, and the Lord graciously delivered me from that and ushered me into the academic sphere, as well as currently serving as consultant for the worship and arts ministry at the Morning Star Baptist Church in Baltimore, Maryland. And recently, last year, released my first mainstream album, Gospel Jazzical Volume 1, which is a fusion of the gospel, jazz, and classical genres, and an outgrowth of my doctoral ministry dissertation that has been charting in the top 100 of Jazz Weekly for quite some time now. And so God is great. And I would say that my funniest memory while playing, and most embarrassing memory while playing, happened in 2003. October 2003, the homecoming gospel explosion concert at Bethune-Cookman College at the time, which is my alma mater. At the time, I was still MD playing for Anthony Brown and Answered Prayers. This was pre-group therapy. And I brought them in, and anybody who's ever heard Anthony Brown and Answered Prayers, Anthony Brown and group therapy, you would know that they have this ridiculous arrangement of God Wants a Yes, where they modulate like 30 times.
Wow.
And so I would always do an organ solo at the beginning of God Wants a Yes. And you know, we get into those days where we really in our thing and we're in our rhythm and we know we're killing that day. And I was killing Natalie Reagan's the way she was killing at Hampton, the way you were killing at Hampton,
The way she was killing
Whatever.
at Hampton, period. Yep.
Whatever,
period,
guys.
was
We
the
all
way I
know
was
John
killing
Paul
that day.
McGee. Come on.
And I was playing, and the organ bench began to feel unstable.
No. Sorry.
And I'm like, Lord, please do not do this to me in front of all these thousands of people in here. There's about 1,000 people in there. And next thing you know, I went to do one of them. I'm picking on her because she's my friend. I went to go do one of these Natalie Reagan glissandos up on that top manual. And I was on the floor. Organ bench completely disabled. I am literally laying on my back in front of these people in the middle of this organ solo at the Homecoming Gospel Explosion at the Thune Cook Band. And they had to go find me literally a chair so that I could finish playing the concert.
How did you recover from the moment?
How did I recover from the moment? You know, and this may be a nugget for somebody. When something like that happens, you just keep killing.
Come on. Sorry.
Wow, the face
So
on the
I couldn't go down in flames now.
Right.
Because, you know, and literally, it was literally, man, did y'all see him fall? Did y'all see him, the organ bench fall apart? Did you see the organ bench? But they were like, that Negro got up and killed.
That's good.
So,
That's good.
you know, yeah, that's probably the funniest and most embarrassing personal moment in playing so far.
Look, John, when you fell, did you keep like one hand up on the lower middle?
That's
You know,
so
it's kind of, you know how you fall slowly but quickly?
Yeah.
And your hand, it was one of them slow, quick falls. Like, I'm falling.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, glad you made it through that.
I am too.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, let's get started with some of the questions. I've asked a couple of people for some ideas and some questions and some prompts. I've been thinking about some things, talking to some of you about some things. And so we have some wonderful questions. I want to start with personal questions for each of you, and then we'll go into questions that are general questions for everybody. So the first personal question I would like to ask, I want to start with Stephanie. Stephanie, what would you consider to be the most important lesson that you've learned over your career that still serves you well?
I'm going to say just learning how to be flexible, pliable, working with people, having a great attitude, and then just being a student of music in all genres. I grew up, we had mostly gospel in my house, but we had other music. My dad would listen to other music. And so just that helps me. Oh, y'all, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's probably a gig. That's probably a booking.
Hold on. Okay.
That is probably a booking.
I should take this one out. Okay. Yeah. So that just those things throughout my life have helped me in all the genres of music, and especially with musical theater, is what I did mostly this past year. Yeah, I'm gonna stop there because I gotta get this pulled out.
Okay. All right. Well, cool.
Awesome.
Cool. So be pliable and be able to work with people, be flexible with working with people. That's a great lesson that I think we can all use. Nat, question for you. Where does your unique playing style come from? Because you have such an awesome, amazing style. Where does it come from? Where's your inspiration?
So that's a great question. So when I was younger, so I learned more from like local musicians who came through my church. Many probably wouldn't know them. Few have gone and passed on, but like memorable names will be like Thomas Whitfield, Kevin Bond, Joe Sample, Alex Munoz. Then when I got a little older, still was listening to Kevin, Joe Wilson, Chick Corea, Rudolph Stansfield for organ, and Quincy Jones for production, Stevie. what else did I say? Beethoven, Haydn, Mozart, Bach. It's a variety. When I got older, then it became studying like Donny Hathaway, Chick Corea Steele, some of the classical greats, Herbie, Billy Preston for organ, Joy DeFrancesco, organ. When I got older, so it's forever learning. I recently learned of these people, these two. Well, one in particular, Rhoda Scott. She's probably like 85 now. Pretty
Wow.
awesome. Very awesome.
Is she the lady whose picture you showed me at Hampton?
No, that's pipe organ. That's Dr. Joyce Johnson.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, she was working at playing organ at Spelman over 60 years.
Wow.
Right. I didn't even really write a lot of pipe organs. Luther Washington here, John Paul McGee, pipe organ, Hammond organ, John Paul McGee, right. Piano, John Paul
McGee, period, right.
Not because you're right here. Stop. Not because in the various peers. So it's a lot, Chad. I know I'm random and I'm trying not to be.
No, it's great.
It may be a commercial. It may be the Hallmark Channel.
Oh,
it may be Young and the Restless. We all remember that song. Certain things just catch my ear, catch my attention. So as far as my uniqueness, I try to adjust via, I guess, where we are. I don't know if I'm accomplishing that, but that's the plan. Even like you all know, with playing the pipe organ, that's a different approach. Playing the Hammond organ, that's a different approach. Playing the piano, a different approach. Playing synthesizers, playing aux on synthesizer, playing it's dependent mains on synthesizer, even the type of synthesizer.
Facts.
Or type of keyboard. So hopefully I've made some type of sense. So in that, I began developing, which I hope is received as my own sound. Yeah. But I used to imitate when I was little. I used to imitate this guy, Roland Stiles. He had a really, really awesome traditional style. He had a stage presence. Believe it or not, I played pretty stiff till I maybe entered mid-20s. Okay. Something happened different, like my hair. I changed my hair or something. But anyway, hopefully that, when I did the big hair, then it changed up.
Okay.
So.
Well, we love it all. We love it all.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. McGee, how do your playing, your teaching, and your preaching all connect and possibly complement each other?
You know, it's funny. I would come back to that after how I began, because one of my newfound beliefs is that literally Romans 8:28, all things work together, should personify not just how we view in tribulation, but should also personify how we look at the composite of our various gifts. And at times when you're multidimensional, it can lead you to really feeling bipolar and schizophrenic until you really lean in to realize that whatever God has given you that, or given you these various things, so that all of these things can work together, coalesce, and collaborate to the end that you glorify God, you grow within yourself, and then you're able to truly make a difference and impact in the world. And so, one of the questions that I was asked for many, many years is, do you perceive yourself as more of a preacher, more of a musician? And I would always get irritated with that question, because it's almost as if people place this value on one or the other, or because I'm a musician, I can't be a great pastor preacher, or because I'm a good pastor preacher, I'm supposed to put down the music side, when the reality is all of these things are supposed to work together. And so really for me, it's just been really leaning into the journey and submitting to the expansion of my capacity. And I think that when we all lean in and we submit to the expansion of our capacity, we'll accomplish more with our various dimensions of ourselves than we do if we're simply trying to focus on one particular thing. I think that
Yeah.
being one dimensional is underrated. So, when you have these
Yeah.
multiple dimensions, these multiple gifts, lean into it
Yeah.
and allow them to work together because they're supposed to. So that's how
Multi-hyphenate.
preaching, teaching, that's how preaching, teaching, and music work together. I don't view them as separate anymore.
Good. All right. Brother Ricky, how has your music education impacted your ministry?
Yeah, John Paul, that's powerful, man. I just got to thank you for that. Um, music education. Well, I was a late bloomer. I was a 12er, like some of you guys all said you started in music industry at 12. But I started by ear, like a lot of people who do what we do, and kind of got bit by the academic bug in high school when I started working with the piano professor at LSU. Did my undergrad at LSU, did my master's at LSU, working on my BMA now in sacred music. And I'll tell you, at every step, I mean, something as small as, we sang Beethoven's Ninth in the Schola Cantorium, like my sophomore year at LSU. Ever since then, I've been in love with choral music. And, or jazz classes, for instance. I remember when I learned Donna Lee in high school, you know, spent months just trying to perfect the fingering and getting that melody down. And what tends to happen is, as you stretch your mind, learning different styles, exposing yourself to different genres, you begin to see how one feeds the other. And, I thank God that I started in church because I think that by being a church musician, you kind of have some soul, you have some flair, you have something special that a lot of musicians that are just kind of more so in a secular field may say, man, how did you do that? Or what's in your heart? What makes your chord sound this way? Or that type of deal. But to more directly answer your question, how has it helped me in ministry? I'll say that having a wider knowledge of music, just generally, not just church music, but just music, period. It helps you, man. Be it on Sunday morning rehearsal, you're playing music throughout the week, and you can find unique ways of approaching something. For instance, we may voice a hymn, and we may do high church style, one week. The next month I'll hop on the pipe organ. We'll do something different, and then maybe I'll voice a hymn and do it to a samba. Or
Okay.
I'll take that same hymn and we'll do country western.
Okay.
We'll put a train beat on it. I'm not talking about anything that I haven't done. We literally did bluegrass, one Sunday morning. And what ended up, look, John, why are you looking at me like that, man? But this was at a ministry that definitely could appreciate the bluegrass. But I had somebody come up to me. He was like, "Man, this morning, wow!" And I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I see where this is going." So being able to have have connections in all of those different genres, it can help even in ministry moments when you're communicating through song to each of those individuals, even if it's just one person in the house that they love country western, they love yodeling. Well, hey, I guess we're gonna get the fiddle out and we're gonna have fun. So
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that speaks to one of the questions actually that I have that I don't need to ask now because you're basically answering it, is that the music education piece or having a very large vocabulary musically to pull from is very important as a church musician and as particularly as a keys musician, because you never know the situation you'll be in. You'll never know who you'll be playing for, and you'll never know what the house calls for. And so it's great to have those things in your arsenal so that you'll have something to pull from.
Chad, look, and I know you were there when this happened. John Paul,
What?
you were on the piano. We were all in Houston. It was at one of V Mike's things that he had going
When
on.
you say V Mike, I already know
And
it's a surprise.
well, I forget what piece y'all were playing, but normally when I accompany V Mike, when we do the redeemed praise, he'll say at the end of it, "Go into Yesu."
Joy of
He
man's
doesn't
desiring.
explain it. He
Yeah.
doesn't say the Bach chorale, Yesu, joy
Yeah.
of man's desiring, BWV 956. He doesn't do Yesu. How many of us would actually know what to do in that moment?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
but you know, he just, and you remember that, John Paul? He just whispered, "Yesu."
I do. He
And
just said,
before you knew
"Yes."
it,
I'm like, okay.
and I mean, it was amazing. But that's I guess, and not to cut you off, Chad, but that's the idea, to have so much packed in to where when the Holy Spirit calls for any particular thing, you can go there in a split second.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. So let's move to some general questions, and these are open for whoever would like to answer them. I would say maybe one person per question so we can get through a lot of material, because I also want to make sure that those of you who are with us in the chat are able to get some questions out as well. So please be sure to give us some questions in the chat. Please be sure to share this as well with your friends and family. And I see a lot of people sharing, so thank y'all very much. First question: what is our role, our mission, our goal as a church musician, specifically a keys player or an organist in the church? What is our role with that? Anybody want to answer that? Not everybody at once. Anybody? Everybody muted? Anybody?
I was going to let, are any of you still actively, like regularly doing that as an MD or organist or keyboard
Yeah,
player?
I am. I wanted to not talk on that one. I don't know who's all tuned in. You say, what is my role?
Yeah, what's the role as a church musician, as an organist, as a keyboard player in the church? What is our
my role, or the role of that capacity, working in that capacity?
Mm-hmm.
Or
No,
my
working in that
specific
capacity.
role?
No, just specific, just in that capacity as a church musician who plays keys or organ. What, for that office, if you will, for that role, for that job? What's our mission?
The mission, of course, is to give God our best and honor Him, and we're fisher. What do you call it? Fishermen and men.
Mm-hmm. Fisher.
We're to bring in those who are lost and encourage those who need some encouragement. But on the I guess the practical tip,
Mm-hmm.
know your songs.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Do your job. Let's see. If are we leading, or you just in general?
Just in general.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was about to say, you said, so do your job. What does that look like?
What does that look like? I think there's some similarities. However, it varies church to church.
Sure.
Because if we're at how do I say this? We'll have to be very PC. If we're at a church with maybe organ and drums, and a lot of the music is always upbeat, maybe shout 90% of the service, then your job is to know how to play that organ, and have the musical appetite to be somewhere for probably a minimum of 3 hours. If you're in my situation, I'm at an AME church, which we all know those what the first, if not the first, churches that were formed by African Americans. Where I do know Kojic. Well, no, Baptist came out of that. Then Kojic came out of Baptist. So there's a lot of history there. Although in my situation, there's a lot of how do I say, modernization. Yet there are traditional moments. So in my situation, you need to know hymns. Know a lot of them. Reading, I've noticed it depends on the church. It's not a bad idea. However, it's not always a deal breaker. If your ear is amazing like that. In my particular situation, I'd say versatility would be, I feel like I'm talking very slow. Versatility is needed. So you need to be able to make adjustments, play a variety of styles, back up a preacher, play, like I said, various hymns. give the service what is needed. What's that, Natalie? It varies from Sunday to Sunday. I think Ricky mentioned that your church went like the style of music went to like a country western move, I guess, movement type feel. If you can flow, so flow is a great word. Yes, being able to flow, being able to adjust, being able to adjust on the spot. That's what I'd say.
And that's what I was gonna add to her. Just keep the service moving.
Yes.
You know, be in tune to the Holy Spirit as to what's happening, when to bring it up and when to bring things back down, you know, that kind of thing. Just keep it moving.
Okay. So let me.
Can I jump in, Chad?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, you know, because I don't do it often anymore, but at the church I consult for, they recently had a transition. And so I filled in the other week and I realized why I don't want to do it. and it's because it is, you know, it was 3 services and you have to be extremely sensitive spiritually to the environment, to the nuance of the dynamic of that particular sector of the congregation. And, you know, because each service has a different personality, has a different age demographic, being sensitive to the time precision while also remaining extremely tuned in with the pastor. You know, they may have wanted something different sermonically in a different service than they wanted in the service before, and having to really intently listen to what is being preached so that you can, in that moment, especially if there's not a worship leader that's helping to facilitate that, where you become really the musical preaching voice to accentuate what the pastor is doing. And I left those 3 services exhausted.
Yeah.
And I was, and with a great and deep respect and admiration for those who post-COVID have returned to that environment. And so I think that our role is really sensitivity, flexibility, agility, you know, having a grasp of the sacred, a grasp of the scope of sacred that is germane to the particular congregation that you serve. I think that doing contextual cultural exegesis, where is it that I'm serving? What sounds work here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do we need to hear pure piano right now instead of a bunch of different layers?
Mm-hmm.
You know, or do we need the layers? You know, I think it's really a matter of sensitivity and intentionality. For how I see it in terms of the role.
Yeah, we call that reading the room. Yes, sir.
Listen, and that was one of my questions.
To go back to what Natalie, I mean, I just want to add emphasis to what Natalie said when she began to answer the question. The very first thing she said was to be fishers of men. In other words, our role, our goal, whatever it is we need to do, it has to be constrained by the Great Commission. Go ye therefore, teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that He's commanded. Lo, I'm with you always, even unto the end. It has to be constrained by that. So everything that we do, the Spirit, you know, just being aware, all of that, it has to funnel into saving the lost.
Yeah. So always being mindful of what that looks like and feels like and sounds like on our instruments, you know, compelling the congregation. One of our other guests has joined us, Mr. Justin Gilbert, Bishop. Justin,
Bishop.
say hi to the people. Say hi to the people, brother.
There I go.
There we go.
Happy Monday, everyone. It's so good to see you enjoying the conversation. I'm just kind of jumping in, but I am extremely happy to be here. Chad, thank you for assembling this amazing aggregation of minstrels. I'm honored to, and I'm looking forward to learning and sharing myself. So
good stuff.
Let's go.
Good stuff. Well, let me ask you this next question then. What is the difference as a keys player professionally in church or not? What's the difference between playing for a rehearsal? No, let me be specific. In church, what's the difference between playing for a rehearsal and playing for the service?
Okay. That's a great ask that. I would say the primary purpose of rehearsal to perfect um, with everyone. So there's an explore there's room to explore there how to make this song um, fit our house. That is something that I consistently find in the rehearsal space. Like, okay, well, I know that they say this, you know what I'm saying? So like, let's throw that in there. That this works well, and just to what it's gonna be. I think that as far as service time, that's game time. So it ain't no do overs, ain't no. I don't in decades. Like I'll take it rough, but like don't false start. It's game time. At that point, it's about executing what was rehearsed. Still being sensitive because sometimes that thing can shift in the middle, and I guess just reading your room, understanding your assignment, understanding the assignment,
Mm-hmm.
and just executing. So I say to that.
Yeah, yeah, good. Okay, somebody else, same question, but different angle. Somebody speak to the value in keyboard players understanding harmony, understanding parts, knowing the vocals, knowing the parts, whether you're reading or not. Um, the value of being able to assist with the teaching of the vocals from the instrument versus what you actually do in service. Can anybody speak to that? Or would someone speak to that, please?
You know, I well since I'm I'm late too.
It's
I
all good.
I'd say knowing where things are as far as the things. This really allows you to tailor your playing so that what you're playing in harmony with what the vocals are doing, which is kind of how to sound good together. Like it's best that you know what's happening with the vocals.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd go a step further and say, make sure you're familiar with the lyrics because the lyrics are telling you how to paint the picture of the
Mm-hmm.
message of the song musically. So these things and knowing what the harmonies are doing, it kind of gives you a blueprint of for people that are a bit more advanced. Room to color. But you know how to color inside the lines when you know the harmonies.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll jump in there as well,
That's good. Go ahead.
because I was in Tortola doing a music workshop, and on Saturday I was having a session with the musicians, and I asked them, I said, when you listen to a song, what do you listen to first? And I ask this whenever I'm doing sessions with musicians, with instrumentalists rather, because singers are musicians as well. So when I was with the instrumentalists, they gave me every answer except lyrics. And I began to talk with them about the fundamental disconnection that espouses from the very purpose of a song being a song, right? The lyrics are what determine the messaging, and the fact that we for the most part, at least in my engagement with instrumentalists, aren't listening to what is being said, what is the poetry, the lyricism speaks to the fact that we feel like our job is limited to simply accompaniment.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, we're not accompanists. We're all in this collaboration. Even now in academic programs, it's not, people are not getting degrees in accompanying, they're getting degrees in collaborative piano, right? Because it's how do we work alongside this art that has already been created through lyric to really create, as Justin would say, to create, further draw, paint, and sculpt a picture in our context, prayerfully, a picture of God that brings the people closer to who God is. And so in many places, in many cases, we're playing and not painting. And I think that when we understand harmony, when we understand melody, when we understand how various instruments are even designed to work together, we have more tools in our arsenal to be able to help us to paint and not just play.
Can I
You know,
add something
you know
to
I
that?
just wrote that
Yes.
down.
That's good.
Can I add to
Go
that?
ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I was just scoring some music for Kathy Taylor. Just did an awesome show at the Worthing.
Come on, scoring. Come on, Kathy Show. Come on.
But
Come on.
Come on.
I had to do a piece at the last minute. Like it was just I had to really do it really quickly. So I didn't I make sure that I had all the parts correct. And in rehearsal, the first rehearsal kind of went okay. But I went back and I put lyrics in there. And that next rehearsal was perfect. And so those lyrics are very important. And I can say that I probably haven't listened too that much into lyrics, but that just taught me, yeah, the lyrics are very important, as well as knowing what the notes are. The lyrics are the most important thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and as directors, one of the things that we always have to remember is that we have to pay attention to those, excavate the lyrics, and like JP was saying, what are we painting? What is the picture that we're painting, and what are we talking about? Because we need to make sure that it's appropriate theologically, even that it's appropriate for the house, that it's appropriate for the time and the season. So great points, y'all. I want to shift. Let's shift. I have a question for our two beautiful ladies. All right. And this is going to be a hard shift. All right. Let's talk a little bit just about sexism that you may have experienced being ladies in this industry, in this work, what you may have experienced, but more importantly, moving forward, help us understand the best way to handle you as ladies, as women in this industry. Y'all, either one of you or both of you, however, answer that.
Go first, Miss Stephanie.
Yeah, I know she's got a lot. I'll just say really quickly, I would say sometimes it's feeling like I'm not, as being the female, that I might not pick it up. So, don't spend, I want to say, be as hard on me as everybody else. Like, don't just blow it over like I'm not gonna get it, because I'm not gonna be the weakest link,
Period.
So in rehearsal, don't just blow over it. Just like you get on the other dude, if they miss the lick, get on me too. So I haven't experienced that much sexism, but it might be more on my part, just not knowing how to like if you want to talk to somebody and ask them, hey, what was that chord you played right there? It might be on my part, because I've encountered, all the guys I've encountered have been very helpful with stopping and wanting to show you things and wanting to show you licks and saying, hey, you can do this here, do this there. So it might be just in my mind, like, how are they going to take it? Like, I don't want them to think I'm trying to get with them or something like that, So.
Got you. All right. Natalie, what you got?
I was going to kind of turn the angle a little. I was taking it as like, well, for me, those who know me, like, I'm a woman first. I'm proud to be a woman. Like, there's no question about all that. Sure. Regarding my job, I'm here to do my job. So I grew up in a household with two older brothers. So I was kind of used to being the only girl. I would say it's grown me a bit. And by the time I guess I began playing in church, the majority of the musicians were guys. However, I pride myself on maintaining my womanhood as well as my professionalism, learning my music. And I don't want to sound, how do we say, a little harsh, but I'm a woman and I'll be treated as such.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
as far as being a lady, back as far as the sexism, I took it as meaning being mistreated because I am a woman, or
Any of the
being
above.
overlooked,
Yeah.
being underserved.
What about underpaid?
That's good. Stay there. I know we don't have that kind of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
A great
But
theologian friend of mine told me, don't get in people's pockets. What I will do, I tend to negotiate, I try to stay out of people's business. However, I'm comfortable talking about my own as far as my negotiations. So, and I have various friends who, we may chat on this topic. And one of my other great theologian friends might say, it's about how you start the relationship. Look at the business relationship. It's how you present yourself. It's what you let them know what you will and will not accept. And I'm not the Google me type. I'm not. So I just ask my questions up front. So I'll be very clear as to what is going on. And if I have an issue, we'll address it. If I'm good. But I would say I'm a pretty pleasant camper, Stephanie. I don't have many problems, but people will try you. Well, people will try, and see how far they can go. You're in the educational field, right? So being fair is not treating everyone the same. So like some, what they say, the group of five, there's always that one. I kind of always encounter that one. But usually we have a conversation, or two, or six, or and we're cool. Or like I said, I would like to think that I've developed a reputation of being a lady who handles her business and will be treated as such. So we don't really run into many problems. But yes, it definitely exists. And regarding the pay, I can only control what I can control. So I'm clearly not a women's lib advocate. Okay, that's wording is wrong. I'm not lobbying in DC right now. I'm at the House. However, I'm not mum to the fact that discrimination happens.
Yeah.
So I try to address as I can.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Someone in the chat said that the discrimination is real. One of the ladies in the chat said that. So.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely real. But I thank God many times I've been given the opportunity to be in leadership positions where I can implement change.
Sure.
So
sure.
I know that's loaded. You all, yeah.
Your gifts do make room for you, though. Your gifts still make room for you, and so
listen,
that's good.
Chad,
yes, sir.
I just want to add, thank you for asking that question, man. And I'll speak for myself, and I can probably speak for every male that's watching, that we want to know these things. Like even Stephanie, the way you opened up and said, hey, don't try to sweeten it up for me. Like if I miss the chord, be as tough on me as you're going to be on the next fella or the next, whatever. We need to know that stuff. I feel like most of us have matured and experienced to where, we can deal with that pretty well. But even just a small nugget like that, I never really even thought about that. And now, I'm taking account for all of the, ladies that I've been in leadership, as far as an instrumental context. And I've probably been like all sweet and we'll get it next time. And then with the guys, I'm, laying the hammer down. So please, I don't know if you're going to do another session just on this, Chad, or how that's going to work out. But we need this, especially in the climate right now. I was on stage at the Southern Baptist Convention a few weeks ago, and it was all on national news. They made the big decision, hey, we're going to limit women in ministry. I'm looking at CNN, and I'm like, oh, wow. That, so I mean, that's the climate that we're in right now. And I understand there's different biblical interpretations about, you know, women in ministry and how
Sure.
they should be able to go or whatever like that. But I'm of the mindset, you know, hey, y'all have better ideas a lot of times than we do. Y'all
Sure
have
do.
sweeter chords. Y'all have, you know, a more insightful interpretation, you know, biblically and theologically sometimes than we do. And we need that. We
Absolutely.
all need that.
Absolutely.
So please, if y'all have anything else, I mean, I don't know, we need to start an email thread or text thread or whatever. But
We're gonna work on it.
Stephanie, Natalie, we need that information.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So thank you all for the perspective, the instruction, the encouragement. We get it. Let me ask Justin this next question. Justin, you have been on all kinds of stages, stadiums, and sanctuaries. So talk briefly about what things you may bring from the secular arena into the church space, and the things that you learn, use on the church side that you may use and bring to the secular side. Talk about how those things work together, either in skills or just people skills, just all of that kind of stuff. Unmute you. Okay, there we go. Now you're unmuted.
All right. You got me there? You hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Hey. All right. So, again, another very awesome question that I've never been asked before. You're really getting them in.
Wow.
I guess going from grid space, I mean, I am, that is home for me. That's where this gift was developed, where, you know, dues were paid. That's where, you know, so many of the skills. But I take with me from church, I guess, the flexible in a different way, like whether the key's on the spot, we need to transpose it. If some rubato, church taught me how to listen, you know, for where I can make sure, like I know when to do things because of the church sensibilities, those reps of, you know, just playing with people, playing with the vocalist. So understanding a singer and collaborate, play some collaborative piano. I love that when you said that, John. That was great. I guess the secular, what I'm bringing to church, the knowledge about what sounds right to people that are not. When I was a bit younger, I would find myself very less concerned about the full and really focusing on the musical aspect. Those are times when I didn't know the lyrics, really get into what we're creating, but it was limited. So once I got out and started doing secular shows, I started to understand as a keyboard player a lot better. And the goal went from playing to playing what's the most effective and appropriate to support the entire. So, you know, those lessons like that, I mean, fortunate to glean, I mean, and it definitely works both ways. Disabilities do work in secular music, you know, to a degree. Secular approaches definitely work to a degree. Makes things experience.
Yeah. What about professionalism and what's expected and how things work on both sides?
Professionalism. That's can be, I think, largely in secular situations. So expectations are very, it's very laid out set. Um, you you're expected to be places promptly. You're report to your immediate supervisors, and what I'm saying, and just be that people want you to come to work with that can do attitude and want you to just really focus on being creative. So I find in a lot of secular attention to accommodations to make it so that you're being creative and simply flowing in what you do. Um, um, in the church space is similar in terms of responsive and be accountable. However, there's a lot of times there is, I would say, flexible in certain things because there are spiritual elements to that. Ask for different things, like while the minister of music may request something, if you have a certain way and you're very locked in, it may go somewhere else. But you need to be. You don't want to. What's the word when someone is doing what they're asked to do by an immediate supervisor?
Compliance. Is that what you mean?
You want you want to be able to comply. However, there are situations where there are this could go multiple ways. Your sensibilities and your sensitivity to the Holy Spirit and your knowledge of the how to as to which way to go. It's insubordination. So it is just you know what I'm saying, being able to be confident in knowing your place, your house. So professionalism is still, we still want you to show up clean. We want you to show up prepared. We want you to have that can-do attitude. However, there's certain wiggle room and where it's incumbent upon the musician, the keyboard player in that seat to make decisions. You know what I'm saying? That's like the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like we gotta make it happen. Everything's urgent at church. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Let me ask this. This is for everybody, and here's another shift, y'all. This is another shift. I think this is very important. Jeff Campbell asked this question on Facebook a little bit earlier, and I think it's very important. So any of you can answer this. Is it better to do 1099? Is it better to do W-2? Do you need to create an LLC? And if you do, what is the benefit of having an LLC versus being paid as an individual board player? What's the best way to handle the financial side of what is done? Anybody want to tackle that? Oh, y'all are muted. Hold on, you're muted. Okay, there you go.
I was saying I wanted to jump in first with this just to say generally, if if you don't possess the acumen to know which decision to make, seek an expert. Let's just start there. I don't think that that's necessarily an appropriate question for us to answer because we don't know each of your financial situations and how those things play themselves out. Just from a very practical standpoint, if you are 1099, you're going to be responsible for paying your own taxes. And the question is, are you saving enough out of your compensation to make sure that Uncle Sam doesn't come towards you at the end of the year? Because at the end of the day, Uncle Sam, Auntie Samantha, she, he, they, them, all the pronouns, they're coming to get what is owed.
That's right.
And they're not going to stop until they get it. And from someone who has been audited before,
Listen.
And someone who has been immature and irresponsible in my financial structure, I would encourage and recovered from that. I would encourage you to seek, financial planner, an accountant, someone to really help you structure. If you've got a W-2 to help balance out your 1099, so you may not necessarily need to do the LLC. Yes, if you do the LLC, there are both positive and challenging ramifications that come from that. And that's a whole nother panel discussion. But let's just
Yeah.
start by saying, get literate in your own financial structure, connect with the people who can assist you in making the best decisions for you so that you can capitalize on what you're bringing in and minimize any potential negative impact
Yes.
to your
Yes.
life. Because at the end of the day, that the IRS thing, that won't just that hinders your life.
Sure. Sure. So I agree. The best answer is to seek professional help with that. I really want to make sure that that's clear to everyone who is serving in ministry and serving in particularly in this space. Don't ignore it. Don't ignore the financial side of it. Figure it out. Get with somebody that knows what they're doing. Get with a professional. But whatever you do, do not ignore it. I also have had to deal with the IRS, and many years ago I was much younger as well and making dumb decisions, and opened my bank account one day and that thing was empty, and I had to find out why the hard way. And so find out what's up with that. So now in the same vein, let me also bring up health insurance, life insurance, because often, especially on the music level, on the band level, or on the musicians level, many churches don't offer the insurances, life insurance, health insurance, and all those different things. And so I want to bring that up and encourage everybody to also seek professionals with regard to that, because a time will come when we're going to need to have all of that in place. And when we're young and playing at church every week, those weeks just keep going by and going by. And then next thing you know, you're older and faced with decisions. And so would anybody else like to speak to that? Nobody else?
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
There you go. Somebody just unmuted.
No,
Somebody speaking.
you go first, bro.
So, I mean, it kind of goes in the same vein with this W-2 versus 1099, situation. A lot of times when you do have that W-2 position, those are the positions that normally come with benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So you may get life insurance 4 times your salary. You may have health insurance for you and your spouse or your family as part of the benefits. If you don't, or if you're 1099, I think everybody, it kind of goes without saying that this is something that you can do on your own. But going back to what, John said, you have to be aware of your stance, aware of your numbers in such a way that, if you don't have the acumen to do it, of course, seek professional help. But if you do, you can do that by tonight, and you won't be dependent upon having a particular job, because the day you resign or the day you get fired, you no longer have that particular benefit. And, I don't know why it always happens this way, but you lapse in insurance, whether it's homeowners insurance, health insurance, life insurance, or whatever. Well, not, life, you wouldn't be here to. But I'm just saying with insurances, when you lapse, that's when something happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll jump in and piggyback there as well, just to say, and I don't want to sound harsh or judgmental. This comes from a place of love and grace.
Mm-hmm.
Most who would be asking the 1099 question don't make enough money 1099 to be paying for insurance and paying taxes and still able to eat, pay your car note, take care of family. I'm just saying most generally. This is a church conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Most are not in that sphere where you're making 70, 80,000, 1099, whether on the road or from a church, because most churches at 60, 70, 80 are trying to make you W-2 anyway. So I just wanted to offer that people who are considering going into churches full time as MD, minister of music, whatever, if you're dealing with a W-2 situation and you're not having the conversations about health insurance, life insurance, and retirement, then you are not being fully responsible with your gift. And I say that as a former pastor, and I say that as a musician. I do believe that churches who hire employees should be making sure, if they're full time, that they are taking care of, or at least paying into a portion of health insurance, life insurance, and retirement. If you are in a situation where you're part-time, independent contracting consulting, I wouldn't say that that's the institution's responsibility, but I do want to say we've had too many conversations over the last years with musicians who we love dearly and respect, who have gotten suddenly sick and ill. Now we're raising GoFundMe's trying to figure out what we're going to do. And not only that, when people pass, but also the fact that we have people that are facilitating spiritual ministry but not taking care of their temples. You haven't been to the doctor in 4 or 5 years. You don't know what's going on with you.
Sure.
And part of that is the expense. Obamacare is expensive. Health insurance, period, is expensive, but it is a necessity. And so again, it goes back to one having a grasp of the scope of their financial ability, and also, and I'm to jump over into another question, but also recognizing when you may need an additional job or an additional source of income
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that you are able to lead a healthy lifestyle. So you're not living paycheck to paycheck, just paying into these things that are very important.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the saving aspect of it as well. So in the same place, in the same space, somebody very briefly talk about, as a keys player, as a mature keys player, what does it look like to be a mature? Well, no. I'm mixing questions. First, the question is, how do you get a job as a keys player at a church, and then how do you keep it? Just some advice on how to get a job and how to keep it as a church keys organist, pipe organist, whichever. Anybody want to speak to that briefly? Best way to get a job and keep it.
In my I've always gotten into situations and that sort of thing. I do know, while I don't speak to a cold approach try out,
Mm-hmm.
I can speak to having longevity in the house and being that person that they want around. Felix Williams, I was about 15. He's now pastoring in Gulfport, Mississippi, and talked to me about the importance of a can-do attitude, partnering with the pastor, partnering with those that you're serving, like to actually have relationship, like to actually the pastor's office on your way to your instrument. Pastor, you feeling something today? And actually stand around and listening to the pastor preach. If it edifies you, pushing them, being that, like, you want that person. And then depending upon your context, if you work in a Baptist church, signing checks, you need to go shake those hands. You need to politic. I don't. This is stuff that I don't know if people really say, but it's how I found success and found myself always in a situation where people want me to be there. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll open it up. I'll stop there.
Relationships matter.
Oh, they're the true currency.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in on this one? And while we're waiting on somebody else to jump in, if there are any questions in the chat, go ahead and put the questions in the chat, because we're going to draw this to a close. We could go on a whole nother hour, but we're going to draw this to a close. So if you have questions, go ahead and put those questions in there. Was anybody else going to jump in?
Natalie?
You hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I would just like to add, when you're going in, make sure you have a job description. So it's a little more clear as to what the expectation is.
Yep.
And I wouldn't, in this day and age we're in, we call it social media age, YouTube age.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt, or they say it'll behoove you not to, research the facility of church, ministry, venue that you are seeking to be employed by prior to that meeting, getting that job description. So you'd kind of see, this is somewhere I want to be. So as far as my longevity in any ministry, I can always go back to, I had a job description. It was read to me. It was verbally read to me. It was physically given to me. I had paper, but these days, you can put it in a PDF. I signed. I agreed or disagreed. How do we say we had with the Constitution? We had amendments. We might have, made some adjustments. And I know Justin brought up pastors. In my settings, it gets a little interesting because I also played at SDA church. I played at an AME church. You all know that, voting it's a little different there. They may have like 4 years. They may have 2 years. So it's not like the pastor I grew up under. He was there all my life. He was at the church. My mom said, I think he was there for 47 years at the same church. Don't really have that. That's pretty, I would say, an anomaly now. So I would probably recommend that job description, or check out some YouTube clips, check out some posts.
Yeah,
this is where we are.
Yeah. That's a great point. One of the other questions that came up a little bit earlier was, what do we as keyboardists and professional church musicians need, desire, but really need from pastors? And the last few comments to the have really stated that relationship is necessary. We're looking for relationship. We need relationship. We need clarity. I would say to whoever's looking for a job, make sure that you do exactly what Natalie said. Research the church. Make sure that the church fits you. Scott Cumberbatch said in the comments just a second ago, if the preaching doesn't edify you and match the Bible, then don't accept the job simply because of finances. So check out the church, check out the pastor, make sure that it's a place that you can serve and be happy, and make sure that there's an interview that happens on both sides, because just like you're checking out the church's website and social media and all that kind of stuff, believe me, the church is checking out yours as well. So make sure that you do your homework and that everybody does their homework on both sides. Anybody want to jump on that?
Yeah, I do. And I'm jumping in from the perspective of one who has served as a senior pastor before, as well as one who has served as a worship pastor before, right? And so there are a couple, I think that at times we get a little idealistic in conversations like these, talking about relationship and all of that, when most people accept the job because they need somewhere to play. So, I don't want us to wade into the depths of the ocean talking about needs and preaching and all this type of stuff, when the reality is that most people who come on board as a pianist, keyboardist, MD really do not care. They need somewhere to play. And in many cases, pastors, and I'm not saying that this is right, Pastors, when they're in the heat of crisis, they need their musician they want to sound. In many cases, pastors have surrendered their responsibility to shepherd souls at the expense of their musical needs, right? And so I think that there's dysfunction on both sides. But since we're here talking about it in the job context, I think that that's the best focus for us, because when we start talking about the spiritual needs we have from the pastor, etc., we don't necessarily like to talk about the spiritual expectations of discipleship from the musician, like attending Bible studies, so on and so forth. So I don't want to divert into that. I think that, when we talk about how do we get and keep a job, how do you get and keep your secular job? Or if you've never had a secular job, perhaps you need to read a book or talk to someone who has, so that you understand that, at the very basic level, in terms of getting hired, what makes you unique and what gives you an added value that an institution would want to hire you and pay you a certain rate. What about you makes you that special, other than the fact that you can do it, right? And there are a lot of people who want to be overcompensated for mediocre performance. And so the reality is what do you really bring to the table in order to get the certain type of job that you're seeking, and in order to keep it, yes, relationships, clear expectations, that's very important. But also at a very basic level, punctuality. Take a bath. I never thought I'd have to say that, but take a bath, wash your clothes, iron them, present yourself well. Be an easy person to get along with. Don't fight the minister of music. Don't sleep through the choir. All of these various things in terms of keeping a job, things that HR would fire you for in the world, but you want grace, quote unquote, for in the church. So those are the things that we would do to keep a job anywhere. And I think at times we do ourselves a disservice by trying to make this super huge distinction between the church as a business and how business is handled in the secular sphere. But we want secular level money, but we want to give the church mediocre service, performance, and intentionality.
So good.
Great answer. So I don't see any new questions. Hey, Corey Gibson. I don't see any new questions in the chat. So let's go ahead and start with you, JP. Give us just some closing words of wisdom, and then we're going to ask everybody to give us some closing words and some good wisdom for our friends who are online with us.
In terms of closing words of wisdom, I want to affirm every person who's watching this that serves in music ministry as a keyboardist, organist, pianist, no matter what level you are. I want to affirm your worth. I want to affirm your value. I want to say to you that you are needed and necessary, and that despite some of the traumas you may have faced, don't allow those, if as best as possible, to jade you in the evolution of your artistry and in the evolution of your relationship with God's church. And I know that that's very difficult to do, and I've had to walk through healing journeys with that, but it's possible to keep your heart pure. And I will also say this: there's a difference between rehearsal and practice. Practice is what makes you better. Rehearsal is what helps you to perform in the context. So I would just, I would encourage everybody to be more intentional in your private time at the instrument, because you don't get better through rehearsal, you get better through practice.
Great words of wisdom. Great distinction. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Justin?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. This is really awesome, Chad. To any keyboard players that are watching, I think it's imperative that you be professional, but that's often said, but I came up with a couple of things that will make it easy to remember. Show up, punctuality, be prompt, be prepared, aesthetically pleasing. Also, that's being mindful of the space of the house. But if you're in doubt, business casual always works.
Always.
Business
And
casual
so does
always. Black always works. Let's see. I would say and under deliver, and always have a song in your heart.
All right. I love it. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Miss Stephanie, words of wisdom.
Okay, I'll speak to the young musicians. Young musicians, just be willing to listen, especially to someone that's been there before. They've been in your place before, and they can give you words of wisdom. They know, so they've made mistakes. So listen to your people that have been there before, your mentors. Learn your instrument, study your instrument, know your theory. That'll get you far. And also on Sunday mornings, some things that I do is first pray.
Yeah.
As I'm preparing for service, pray. Prepare. I usually have a playlist of whatever music is going on, so I can listen to that on the way, and then produce when you get there.
That's good. That's good. That's very good. That's very good. Natalie.
So we were looking on each other's papers. I'd say I'll hang around the young musicians, young ladies as well. So we can hone in. It applies for us all. I would say, practice patience, prayer, actual practice, perseverance. I call that my PPP phase 2 because there were a lot of P's. And then I said, in this day and age, we think that all opportunities come through social media presence, although it's a major component. Please know that's not the only way. So hopefully that'll touch someone or bless someone.
Got you. Thank you for that as well. Brother Ricky?
Yeah, first let me say this has been a blessing to me. This is an all-star cast you've assembled. I mean, minus me. This is an all-star cast that you've assembled here, Chad. And all of you guys, literally all of you, I followed you on social media for years. I've seen the videos, heard you preach, seen the funny stuff, seen the musical stuff. So, I thank God for all of y'all. But, we have the practical, which is necessary, but we also have the spiritual. And with this being a church musician panel, we have to go back to the fact that we do this for the Lord. We do this for God.
Yeah.
And we need all of those practical aspects, no doubt. But we also need to love God. Sure. We need to love the word of God. Sometimes, some of us as ministers, we almost take that for granted because we feel like, okay, that's life. This is what we do. But there are musicians out there that maybe because they couldn't get a gig on the road, or maybe because they couldn't do this other thing, they just go to a church and say, hey, I know 3 chords, pay me $2,500 a week. And it's like, yo, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And I turned 40 yesterday, right? So I'm probably the oldest. I'm probably the oldest on the panel.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, bro.
Thank you, y'all.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'm going to take that. You're the oldest.
Yeah, we can go with that if you like. We can go with that.
But we've learned through experience, man. I mean, like 3 of us have been doing this since we were 12. I'm sure some of you have been doing it even before that. I mean, professionally. I remember I got my first little $35 check when I was in high school after playing the service, right? Yeah. So, we've experienced these things, So we're saying this from a place of maturity. We don't know it all. We're still learning, forever sponges. But at the same time, there are some foundational, basic things that we need to know as church musicians. We need to understand that we're not just a musician. We're a servant, a church servant, a spiritual servant, a disciple, a witness, a minister. We're all of these things wrapped up in, what we do on Sunday mornings or, whenever we serve. So, I challenge when I do workshops, a lot of times I challenge groups. I tell them, hey, have you read the Bible from cover to cover? Maybe out of a group of 30, one person will raise their hand. Maybe. And if we can read, Paradise Lost, Moby Dick, these books that are just as long as the Bible, how can we not, take that important, significant step in our lives at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old to read from Genesis all the way to Revelation? Just get it in you. Get it in you. You may not be able to explain each and every, aspect of the text, but at least you have it in you, because I know the abundance of the heart, it has a way of coming out. And another thing is we've talked about, the church context and, kind of how to carry ourselves. But I really want to say, let's hone in on the people aspect of what we do. The musical aspect, man, it's so important. And just like you guys have said, practice, practice, practice. I mean, get it all in you at a young age. I mean, be killing, be blazing. There's so many young guys that, can take us out, right?
Sure.
But if you don't know how to deal with people, we've taken that 20-year-old kid and given him charge over a choir of 50 people. And now this kid that doesn't really have, the training to really deal with the different personalities and different things like that has now, we're learning from experience, and we're experimenting on people. And, like they say, church hurt is some of the worst hurt you can experience. And we have a lot of things, I think, that come along with the understanding that what I do as a musician is just music. No, this is people. This is people. So that's just my nuggets, that we really have to learn how to love people, how to share the gospel with people. And I mean, not just, hey, Jesus went to Calvary to save us like you and me. No,
Right.
I mean, share the gospel with them in such a way that that it's germane, that it's evident, that it's apropos to their particular situation in that moment. And how
Sure.
can we do that if we don't have the word in us? The Bible tells us clearly, let the message of Christ dwell among us richly as we teach and admonish one another in all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, singing with grace in our hearts to the Lord. And it goes on to say a few other things, but the first phrase says, let the message of Christ dwell among you richly. How can we generate God music if we don't really know him?
Sure.
That's
Well,
good.
that's good. That's good. You have preached a whole sermon. All of you have made major contributions to the conversation. Let me say thank you. Let me say thank you to Catherine Kirkwood, who is my assistant and who is also on the back end of this stream producing. Thank you so much, Catherine. Those of you who have joined us today, thank you for joining us. We've got pastors in the room. We've got musicians in the room. We've got lay persons in the room. Thank you all for joining us. Meet us next month for our next iteration of the panel. My closing words are pretty much a summary of what everybody says is spend time with God, understand your assignment, lean into that thing, love God, love people, love yourself, and share that love abroad. If you're interested in the Brawley Group working with you or working with your church or your ministry, go to the website, thebrawleygroupconsulting.com. If you have any other questions or concerns, please get in the chat. We're going to go in the chat and look a little bit later and try to address some things that we may have missed if possible. Thank you all for being here. See you next time. God bless you. Happy rest of your week. Have a great week. Thank you all for being with us.
I appreciate it.
Happy rest